Good morning everyone, it's Pierre speaking. It's Tuesday morning, it's the 13th of June 2017. Time is about 8 o'clock GMT time when I made this video clip. Let's start off with the Euro US dollar daily chart. Looking at the direction indicator, everything here tells us that we need to long. The problem is that last week we closed minus 74 pips lower than the opening. So price was trending down and we can't flip the 4-hour chart. We will have to flip the daily chart to get the Earth and Sky trading zone to look for the long setups. If we do that on the daily chart, we will flip previous month from the low to the highs that we already made this month. Then we've got a trading zone starting at 1063 coming down to 950. In the trading zone we have a 55 EMA here at 1043. That will be my support area in the trading zone. Little bit further down, psychological level and the monthly pivot point. However, those are three areas in the trading zone to keep our eye on for possible longs. At the 38.2 FIP this week at 1116, we have the monthly main pivot point plus the 200 EMA plus a psychological level, guys. I hardly use the 38.2 FIP, but sometimes when we had big movements or when there's multiple reasons, it doesn't only help there's a 38.2 FIP. In this instance we have multiple reasons. We have a monthly pivot point there plus the 200 EMA plus a psychological level, so now that gives weight to that 38.2 FIP. That can also be a support area to long this week. If we do get into longs, keep your eyes on 1200 and this 55 at 1217 for profit take area. If we do break that, then keep your eyes on 2888. Now I'm talking nonsense. 1288, which was the high areas for possible profit take areas. Possible counter trades, I will only relook at this level 1288 and then the psychological level here of 1300. The correlated pair Euro JPY daily. If we have a look at the daily chart here, we can see that the 4 hour is mixed. Last week we closed 102 pips lower than the opening, so price was trending down on the 4 hour, but the main trend is still up on the daily. So if we flip the daily chart, we will flip previous month from the low to the high. Then we've got a zone starting at 123.61 coming down to 122.51. Now this area here will be key for me. It's the 55 EMA at 122.79. Okay, keep your eyes on that for huge support area. If that breaks, then we can tumble down to this area and go and visit the mother-in-law, which is the daily 200 EMA at 120.94. If we go to the 4-hour chart, it looks like we're trapped in a triangle on this one, guys. Let's just quickly draw the lines there. The main trend is up, so I will prefer the triangle to break to the upside, and this area will be key. We need price to close on the other side of this weekly pivot point and this 55. Remember, that's currently resistance areas. We need that to break to the upside first, pull back, and then the long. If we do get into longs, 124.64, 125.72 will be our profit take areas. Possible counter trades, I will only relook if we get to 125.81 for a counter short. Euro pound 4-hour chart, we had a nice bullish move last week. Look at this, everything is green here. Even last week we closed 27 pips higher than the opening, so we can flip the 4-hour from last week's low to the high. Then we've got a zone 8758 coming down to 8703. Just before the zone we have a weekly pivot point at 8766 and then this 55 at 8748. That can give support. If we look to the left of the chart, previous support resistance, so look for possible longs from that area. Counter trades, I will only relook at 8866, 8883 for possible counter trades back down to 8766. Pound US dollar 4-hour chart, we had a big drop yesterday. Look at that, railway tracks at the 200 EMA. Didn't take this trade, missed on that one. If we have a look at this, the daily is mixed. Last week we were above a lot of EMAs. Then the news came out. Remember, it was the elections there. It was a big candle there. Let's have a look at this. That move was 250 pips almost. We broke all those EMAs. Okay, that's why we now mix on the daily and we shifted for shorts on the 4 hour. We close 126 pips low and opening, so we can flip the 4 hour from the high to the low to get a zone starting at 2809 going up to 2895. Just before the zone we have a psychological level weekly pivot point 55 EMA, so keep your eyes on 2788, 2796, 2823, 2843 for possible roadblock to short from. The first roadblock however will be this area here, 2753. It's a daily 200 EMA, and we've got also the 38.2 FIP there, and if we look to the left of the chart, previous support resistance there as well. Possible counter trades, 2595 will be my area to look for counter trades, and then profit take will be at 2753 where this daily 200 EMA is waiting. If we make a new low, follow it with your FIP so that the Earth and Sky trading zone can move. Okay, if we make new lows, what will you have then? If we make a new low here, argument's sake down to here, we will have MACD divergence. So keep your eyes on that. Remember, it's counter trades on the pound. Be very careful. Pound JPY 4 hour chart, same thing here. Last week we closed 159 pips low and opening. We mix on the daily. 4 hour tells us that we need to look for shorts. So if we do that, we flip the 4 hour from the high to the low, then we've got a zone 140.89 going up to 142. It's a psychological level. In the zone we've got a weekly pivot point at 114.107, a 55 at 141.41 and 141.68. So loads happening in the Earth and Sky trading zone. If we look to the left of the chart, we also have previous support resistance in these areas. Okay, so that will be the areas to look for shorts. 140.89, 141.41, 141.68 where we want resistance. Now price looks like it's finding support at 139.03. Keep your eyes on that. It will be a counter trade, remember, and it is the pound, so be very, very careful. Aussie US dollar 4 hour chart. Yeah, the daily is mixed, guys. Okay, last week we closed 102 pips higher than the opening. The 4 hours swung around now, and it tells us to look for longs. Why? Because we broke all these EMAs to the upside. Remember now, for weeks on end we were looking to short. Now last week we broke all these EMAs to the upside, and I will take a chance on the 4 hour to look for longs. If we do that, we flip 4 hour from the bottom to the top, then we've got a zone 7494 coming down to 7458. In the zone we have a 55 at 7490 and 7480 for support area. But keep your eyes on a 38.2 FIP. Remember, I told you earlier in this video clip, the 38.2 FIP doesn't mean a thing if there's not more reasons to it. Look at that, 38.2 FIP, there's a 200 EMA at 7515. We have a weekly main pivot point plus the 55 EMA. So now that all of a sudden turns into multiple reasons and can be a roadblock at 7511 for possible longs. Profit take will be at 7567 and 7590. I will look for possible shorts once we get to 7590. Remember, counter trade. Aussie JPY daily chart. Now here the 4 hours mixed. Last week we closed 99 pips higher than the opening, but the main direction is still short while this 200 EMA there holds. So if we flip the daily chart then, because we can't flip the 4 hour from the high of the previous month to the low, then we've got a zone 83.16 going up to 83.86. Now this 200 EMA at 83.51 will be key for me. Okay, I will be looking to short this pair. Keep your eyes on 83.09, 83.29 and 83.50 for possible turnaround areas. Now remember, this is correlated with the Aussie US dollar. The Aussie US dollar we want to long, okay? But before we want to long it, this one needs a pullback. That means this one can also tumble a little bit. US dollar JPY daily chart. Here everything shouts to short, 4 hour and the daily. Last week we had a small move. We closed 14 pips lower than the opening, and if we go to the 4 hour chart, then yesterday already we were at last week's high area there. Okay, and that's why I said in yesterday's write-up that we can't flip this. Now I will keep my eyes on this, because this can be an inverted head and shoulder, where this is the head left shoulder, possible right shoulder with the neckline here. So keep that in mind. But for now, I will flip the daily chart from the high of previous month to the low to get a zone. And the zone will be at 11178 going up to 113.09. Before we get to that area at the 38.2 FIP at 1116, we have multiple reasons. We have two 200 EMAs there, 55, a 54 psychological level, previous support resistance. So this will be a huge area, guys. 111.14, 111.24 on this one. US dollar CAD. This one had a big tumble yesterday, guys. We were hanging around in this area. Big candle, and that move, let's quickly have a look, was already 168 pips. Now everything swung around. Remember, the daily is now mixed. Last week we closed 47 pips lower, but then we had this move, and I will flip the 4 hour to get a short zone. If we do that, we do the 4 hour from last week's high to the low, and if we make new lows here, follow it with the FIP so that the zone can move here. But the current zone, 3405, 3472 for the top of the area. In the zone, we have this 55 EMA at 3458, 3471 weekly pivot point. These EMAs will move into the zone further in the week as well. Now, we might find support now, guys. We are highly oversold, so look for support. It will be a counter trade. If we do get into a counter trade, take note of the weekly second pivot point. Remember, that was support, and support broke to the downside, so support turns into resistance. Plus, we have that 4 hour. Now I'm talking nonsense. We're on the 4 hour. That is that daily 200 EMA. So that can be resistance. So if we do get into a counter trade, 3355 can be profit take on that one. US dollar index daily chart. Last week we closed 49 pips higher than opening. Everything still tells us to look for shorts. We can't flip the 4 hour. Let's have a look at the 4 hour, because we closed higher than the opening. We can't flip the 4 hour to get a short zone. We need a short zone because the main trend is still down. So we have to flip the daily. If we do that, we flip from the previous month from the high to the low. Then we've got a zone 98.18 going up to 99.02. In the zone, we have a 55 EMA plus this monthly pivot point and 200 EMA. So areas 98.20, 99.03. Here too, 58.2 FIP will be key at 97.84. Why? Because we've got a 58.2 FIP there. The 54 EMA is there. There's a 200 EMA there. There's a monthly main pivot point there. And if we look to the left of the chart, previous support resistance. So that will be the area for us as well. If you've got any questions, guys, please pop in at the forum. Leave a message there. I will get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, there's very senior members there in the forum that can also help. Bit hectic still here in my hometown. Lots of food, lots of clothes, lots of water coming in, and it's coming to my hometown of George, which is not too far from Knysna. We're getting everything into warehouses here, and then from here on, they're repacking it, sending it to Knysna. Lazelle and I went there on Thursday again, and we worked a little bit in the warehouses on Friday. And let me tell you, it looks like a war zone, but we are getting there. The wind died down, and they're busy getting these fires under control. Have an awesome one, and I'll speak to you guys later. Cheers.